welcome everybody. The first issue on the agenda was attendance, and I believe at this point we're short one person per quorum. So that means that we will eliminate the consent agenda and any other items on the regular agenda of the meeting, since we don't have a quorum. We can't do any business, and we'll go directly to item 6, which is the presentations. And we'll start with Dr. Riley, if you would begin with a presentation on District 87. We've asked each of the superintendents to tell us a bit about themselves and introduce themselves.
Yeah, happy to do so. Hopefully I'm speaking loud enough for folks that are joining us online. I've spent my entire career in District 87, which is a little bit unique when it comes to being a superintendent. I started out actually as a student teacher in the spring of '88, so that goes back a long way. Then I was hired as a teacher. I coached 3 different sports. I coached cross country, wrestling, and baseball. Did that for about 7 years, and then I became an assistant principal at Bloomington High School, served as principal of Bloomington High School, and then I became an assistant superintendent in 2003, and I've been serving as superintendent since 2010. And this is my last month of work. I'm actually looking forward to retirement. As I tell people who ask me, how many days do you have left? It's pretty easy now that it's June. But superintendents don't measure their lives in how many days, it's how many board meetings you have. And I have 1 more board meeting to go. Dr. Irwin is one of my bosses here serving on this board, and I work for a great board of education and have for a number of years. But I'm excited to work in this school district. My wife and I live here. I have a grandchild that attends one of our elementary schools. I have 3 children who have graduated from Bloomington High School, went through Washington, Bloomington Junior High. So our ties to this community run really deep. And even though I work in Bloomington schools, I recognize with my colleague sitting here, Dr. Weichel, that we serve the whole community. And the reality is what's good for one of us is good for both and for the entire county for that matter. And let me just say that the county school superintendents here in McLean County get along really well. We've got a really good group of people who share with each other, lean on each other. And so know that even though you might see rivalries on the playing fields and those sorts of places, behind the scenes, there's a lot of camaraderie and good work that gets done and shared among these groups. I think I'd be remiss. I've got a presentation that just is really talking about various things that you guys had asked me to bring, but if I didn't mention anything about the recent school shooting in Uvalde, I think I'd be missing out on something with you, because I often get asked by people, what impact does that have on your district? It's fairly significant. I can tell you that I fielded several phone calls, which isn't very many in a district of our size, from parents who are really concerned about sending their kids to school following that event. That's very understandable. So I simply walked them through some of the things that we do, which isn't really anything in addition to what we've already been doing, but just being more vigilant, I suppose. Behind the scenes, I do a lot of conversations with the Bloomington Police Department. I have 2 resource officers. I have a director of safety and security. In a district of our size, that's pretty good. I know that there's a lot of discussion where following that type of tragedy that people would want resource officers in every school building. Well, that's a great and lofty goal, but quite frankly, they're struggling to get officers on the street, let alone in the schools. But we make sure that we have extra patrols, if for no other reason, just to be visible. That is something that I've had conversations with the Bloomington Police Department about, and that's what they're doing behind the scenes. We only have 1 more day of school after today, so hopefully, things calm down here and we can get moving on summer school. I'll be happy to answer any specific questions about that or anything I'm going through here today that you want to know about. So don't hesitate to interrupt me because my time is limited and I'm just sharing some overall general information for you. So if you go ahead and go to the next slide. A little bit about our school district. We were actually founded in 1857, same year as Illinois State University, for those of you who are familiar with when ISU started. And none other than Abraham Lincoln has a part of that history. He was hired as our attorney. If you go to documents, whether it's at the county historical department or in our own vaults, we have historical documents that are signed by Abraham Lincoln. That's really cool. So our history goes way back. We are 10.5 square miles in the city limits of Bloomington. That's really small when you're talking about a school district of our size, compared to probably close to 200 in Dr. Weichel's case, which, you know, that makes things a little bit simpler for me when it comes to decisions about closing school when the weather's bad or when you have transportation challenges. 10.5 square miles is a good place to be. So I am very happy with that. I know that creates additional challenges for Dr. Weichel that I just don't have to deal with, which is really, really nice. We have one early childhood center, which serves about 250 students. If we had more space, we'd serve more because the need is there. We could serve double that, probably triple that. But we are limited in terms of what our size is. Sarah Raymond is out on the west side of town. We have 6 elementary schools that range in size from about 330 to a little over 400, 450. And we have one middle school that's pretty large, serves about 1,200 students, and one high school that's large that serves about 1,500 students. Overall, our student population ranges from about 5,250 to 5,600. We're in the lower part of that in recent years. The pandemic has brought a lot of challenges, some of which caused parents to make decisions about keeping their kids home. Some of those have come back, but not all. Others have chosen to go different routes, go to some private schools in the area. Our private schools here in this community are really good news for any parent. I tell this to parents all the time who come and they're moving to the area for the first time. They're not sure where they need to send their kids to school. They'll go check them out. I'm very transparent that, look, we've got lots to offer and I think we're the best. But the bottom line is your kids are not going to go wrong wherever they go in the county, public or private. They're going to be served well. Bloomington High School is also home to the Bloomington Area Career Center. That serves approximately 16 area schools, including schools from Unit 5. Our countywide schools and even extend just slightly beyond our county. And kids come to that career center for a variety of programs. We're just fortunate that we house it. Our kids get the benefit of not having to travel, but it's a great place for kids to culminate capstone programs for their junior and senior year. People don't realize it, but we're one of the largest employers in town. We're over 700 employees. We're, I think, still in the top 10, although Rivian coming to town has bumped most of us down, which is a good thing. If you combine Unit 5, District 87, and ISU together, I think we are probably number 2, rivaling number 1, which is State Farm. So education in this community is really a significant employer. If you look at it as nothing else, it is part of the economy. It really helps to make the economy go. We have a large budget of over $82 million. And even with that, our tax rate is the lowest among the county schools. I know that's a big issue for people. I always hear about it. All of us in the county work really hard to keep that tax rate low. We know property taxes are not fun here in the state of Illinois. We try to keep it level, but to provide the services that we need, that's very, very difficult. So we recognize that that's an issue that is important to everyone. And by some publications, District 87 is the 3rd most diverse district in the state, which really astounds people. We serve kids from all kinds of backgrounds. Our biggest diversity is socioeconomic, quite frankly. We've got kids coming from multi-million-dollar country club homes. We have homeless students and everything in between. But it really makes the place special. I mean, that's really part of our identity. It presents some challenges, but it's really cool to know that we are very, very diverse in this community and really in the state. We also are a large unit district. There are about 60 large unit districts in the state of Illinois. Those are defined as those that serve K through 12 students. Most of us serve pre-K as well. And they have to be over a certain number. Unit 5 is another included district. You've got Champaign, Urbana, Decatur, Springfield, Peoria, 150. Those are here in central Illinois, but a lot of them are up in the suburban area. That's important because together we have a large voice in the state when it comes to policies and things that are going on at the state level. There's a state organization that we belong to that serves our needs that are unique compared to districts that are not large unit districts. So that's a little bit about the background of District 87. Go ahead and hit the next slide. Our governance structure, many of you are probably familiar with it. We have 7 board members that govern our district. They're all at large. In some places they might serve specific areas, but in our case, they're large, which just means they can come from any part of the district boundaries. Our district boundaries, like I said, are 10.5 square miles in the city limits of Bloomington. The way the community has grown and the way the district boundaries are, Unit 5 actually has more students that live in the city of Bloomington that attend Unit 5 schools than students that live in Bloomington that attend District 87 schools. And that probably happened 10 years or so ago, but the growth of Unit 5 is not felt, of course, in our district. There's really not a whole lot for us to grow because of the geographic boundaries. But those board members serve 4 years terms and they're staggered. We've got 4 that are up for election in a certain, within a 2-year period, and then another 3 so that we're not having to, select all 7 in a given election year. Most of the time, those people are coming from the goodness of their heart. I can tell you that I've served with some great boards, and for the most part, I've had outstanding board members who are in it for the right reasons. They might have little interests of their own, but overall, they're in it for kids. They're in it to look out for the taxpayers of the district, and they want to make sure that the schools are good for our students that we serve. And Dr. Irwin is certainly representative of that. They come from all kinds of backgrounds. His is education, but some come from business, some come from law, some come from medical professions, and just varies. So it's good to get a variety of board members. They provide 2 major functions. At least that's what they should do. Now you'll see in some cases they might get more involved in things than others, but they hire the superintendent. I tell my board, and they just went through this, the most important thing that they do ever is to hire the superintendent, because if they hire well, then everything else is going to work well. If they don't, then they're going to be spending a lot of time dealing with that aspect of it. And they set policy for the district. Now that's a very global perspective, I get it. But those are the 2 most important things that they do. The superintendent of schools is charged with overseeing the entire district. That means that they're responsible for everything. That doesn't mean that other people don't do various jobs and a lot of work, but the superintendent is responsible for the oversight of the district. I have assistant superintendents, I have directors, building principals, assistant principals. Those are all administrators and directors. I have about 30 of those individuals. The building principals, I would argue, are probably the hardest working people in the district. They have a great deal of responsibility, and we put a lot of weight on their shoulders. They're the ones who hire the staff in their building. When I say hire, we make recommendations to the board. We don't actually have any authority to hire, with the exception of a very limited time window. The board is the ultimate source of who approves the hiring of all positions in the district. And again, those individuals provide leadership and operations across the entire district. Our classroom teachers, paraprofessionals, and other certified staff, and when I said building principals have the toughest jobs, you can make a case that these next group of folks have certainly had it in the last couple of years. They're on the front lines. They're the ones who are working really hard when it comes to things like whether or not we're going to be in school, or we might be remote learning, or some combination of that. While those decisions are very, very stressful for the 2 of us and the people we work with, we know that they're the ones that are impacted from it more so than we are. And we understand that that's put a lot of stress on the system over the last couple of years. That's been very difficult for education in general. It's really driven some folks out of the profession. It's kept some folks from wanting to advance up into levels of administration. Very, very good people, which is kind of disheartening. But I'm hopeful that we're kind of moving past that at this point in time. Our food service, custodial maintenance staff, they provide support to our staff and students. And just like those classroom teachers, paraprofessionals, they've been on the front lines the last couple of years and have been doing a very, very good job. Our mission, this is part of, I've just given you kind of the high level part of our mission, the challenge, support, and inspire our students. These are what drive decisions for the district. So when I'm meeting with my cabinet team, my principals, if we ever have to go through deficit reductions, we're always coming back to these things. And these get reviewed every so often. In fact, now that the new superintendent is coming in, we were actually due to go through and review our board goals and mission and vision statements, but the pandemic kind of put a halt to that. So anytime you have a change in leadership, it's a good time to review and look at those things. Academic achievement is at the top of what we want to do. Educational environment, providing a safe environment for our kids. Those things are all a high priority for our district, and probably more so in the last couple of years. Just, when you think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we want the very top for our students by the time they leave us. But right now, in the last couple of years, we've just been focusing on the basic level of things that our kids need, emotionally, socially, getting them back to learning, quite frankly. That's been really important for us. Okay. Our challenges right now, it's getting qualified staff at all levels. That's becoming more and more difficult. The pandemic has definitely hurt that, but there's just fewer people coming out in the profession. That was already happening prior to the pandemic. And then that has an impact on every position. So it means your pool of candidates is smaller. You already had hard to fill positions. Now, even positions that weren't hard to fill are becoming hard to fill. And then leadership positions, you're having fewer candidates for those. So we focus a lot more on trying to grow our own and keep them with us from going to other places. And that's becoming more and more difficult. Financial challenges, all of us are being hit with financial challenges. That's not going away. The last couple of years, having some grant funds has helped. But those are short-lived. Those are going to run out, dry up in a year or so, and we really need to look at stable ways that we do not have to keep borrowing money. We're issuing bonds for working cash for our operations. That's like borrowing money to pay for your operations. That's not a good place to be for school districts. We can do it for short terms, but we really shouldn't be doing it for the long terms. And that's one thing that we're really trying to stretch those dollars. The current political environment at all levels, it's been mainly at the national, but it's hit us at the state and even the local level. I mean, if you've seen anything and paid attention to our board meetings, we've dealt with some craziness at board meetings. I mean, the pandemic has caused some people to lose their minds. When you've got good people who are all well-intentioned, there isn't any board member making a decision that they're not trying to do in the best interest of kids and staff. And yet you have some people coming and basically attacking us verbally, both at board meetings, live and in person, and then out in the community. It's been tough. And that attack on public education is just, goes right along with that. Next slide. But we do have some successes. I mean, we've got a great community. When I talk to colleagues, the support for education is very strong here. We've got wonderful institutions like Heartland Community College, Illinois Wesleyan, Illinois State, right in the backyard. We have great partnerships with Boys and Girls Club. We have partnerships with all kinds of community organizations that help our students. And that is, while lots of communities can point to that, ours is pretty deep and wide, and that is very much appreciated. So we have strong, I mentioned we've got strong partnerships with our colleagues across the county. When the pandemic hit, we would have Zoom meetings with just our superintendent group in the county. And that actually stretched beyond that to lean on each other, learn from each other, take best practices and use them in each of our school districts. And that was really helpful, I think, for all of us. Next slide. And then just some of our well-known alumni that some you may recognize. The Shirks were graduates of Bloomington, those who founded Beer Nuts. Bill King used to be the radio voice of the A's. McLean Stevenson, if you're a fan of MASH, he was an actor who grew up here. And then, of course, Ed Rust, who is the CEO, was the CEO of State Farm, was a proud Raider of Arms. So just a few of names you might know. And communication, social media is a big way for us to communicate today. Our website, we both have communication experts that try to promote the good things that are going on, because we can't rely on other people to tell our story. We need to do it. And so we're getting better and better at that as time goes on. I think that was all I had for you. So I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have about District 87 or education in general.
Barry, do you get any questions about whether the two districts are sharing with each other and saving financial expenses? Does that come up at all?
Anytime one or both of us is facing financial challenges, and usually it's not asking questions about what resources are you sharing, it's why aren't the two districts merged together? And my response to that is most people just don't quite understand the magnitude of what that takes, number one. And anytime you do that, inevitably you have, we have teacher contracts, different teacher contracts. We can do certain things, like co-op paper purchases and fuel things, which we get lots of school districts to get in on to help lower the cost. Insurance is another way to pool resources. But when it comes to merging the districts, if you look at teacher contracts, you might view one as a little better than the other. Well, when you go to merge, they're not going to go with the one that's less. They're going to go with the one that's more. And then you think that you're going to save a bunch of money because you'll have one superintendent instead of two. Yes, you'll save a little bit, but that's fringe money. I mean, I just gave you what our budget was, 82 million. Unit 5 is probably over 200 million, I would guess. Way more than that. So there's just not this mystical savings that you're going to get if you merge the districts. And I would point to you to say, show me any district. You combine our districts, and we're talking probably over 18,000 plus students, approaching 20. Name one that's over 20 that's just really knocking it out of the park, doing great things in the state or even out of the state. You can't, because the bigger you go, you really can have a lot of struggles. I love our size. 5,000 to 6,000 to 7,000 is like in the sweet spot. I think that it affords you the opportunity to offer lots of things for kids, the same as very, very large districts. And yet, like the square mileage is close enough proximity. I can get to every school building in the course of a day and visit my schools. That's pretty nice for a large unit districts. That's not common. That take Dr. Weichel a lot to get to 20 plus buildings in a given day. So bigger isn't always better, and that's not to say that I think Unit 5 does great things for kids and is a great district. But combining the two of us, I think, brings a world of challenges that people just don't realize. All right.
Dr. Weichel?
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thanks to Dr. Barrett or Dr. Riley. He took care of a lot of things that I don't necessarily need to speak to. So for those of you who I haven't met yet, I'm Dr. Kristen Weichel, Superintendent of McLean County Unit 5 Schools. This is my second year in the district. So unlike Dr. Riley, I am not a lifelong resident of McLean County. I originally grew up in Quincy, Illinois, and that's where I spent most of my professional career up until about the last 12 years. So this is my 25th year in education. I started out as a special education teacher, having taught high school students, intermediate students, served as an elementary principal for a period of time, and then went on to become a director of special education for a county-wide co-op. And so I did that for about 5 or 6 years, and then I moved right outside of Decatur 12 years ago to become a superintendent, and spent 9 years there and a couple of years down here in McLean County. So I hope to retire from Unit 5. I'm not nearly as close as Dr. Riley. I have a few more board meetings than he does, but love the community so far. So I tell people when I accepted the job in Unit 5, we were not aware of COVID yet. Okay, so I accepted the job on Christmas Eve of 2019. I didn't officially start until July 1st of 2020. So I was trying to lead my previous district through the start of COVID while I was getting calls from Unit 5, wanting some guidance, even though I wasn't here yet. So I really came at an unusual time, but people frequently ask, like, do you regret coming to Unit 5? And my answer is no. Like, I love the district. I work with great people every day. And so I consider myself really fortunate and lucky. So you can go to the next slide. So just a little bit about Unit 5. Currently, we have about 12,500 students. Prior to COVID, we had a little over 13,000. So like Dr. Riley said, we lost some students, whether it be to homeschooling or to private education, or people moving out of the community altogether with COVID. We do cover more than 214 square miles, and we have 123 bus routes every day, twice a day, AM and PM. That does not count the routes that we have midday for some of our special education students. We have approximately 24 schools, 17 are pre-K through 5 schools, 4 junior highs, and 2 high schools. Not highs school, I caught that typo earlier, so sorry about that. And then we have 1 transitional vocational building. So we have a building, Eugene Field, and that serves our students with special education needs or who have individualized education plans that are ages 18 up through age 22. So it's a really unique site because that building particularly works with students still needing to learn some life vocational skills or placing them out in the workplace out in our community. So that way, once they exit out, they age out essentially out of K-12 schools upon turning 23. And hopefully those individuals will be able to live and work in our community because more often than not, they don't move out of our community. So we want to make sure that they're living a productive life that's individually rewarding, but as well as being able to give back to the community by being able to hold a job or volunteer in some capacity. So a little bit about our students. We have a little over 5% who are English language learners. We have certain buildings, all of our buildings might serve students who receive English language education, but we have certain buildings that might be for newcomers. So students that are brand new to the United States who may not speak English as a second language. We have approximately 54 languages that we serve in Unit 5. Approximately 32, almost 33% of our students qualify for free and reduced lunches. So like many districts, that number has increased over the years. And approximately 17% of our students have individualized education plans, which means they qualify for some sort of special education service. As far as employees, we have approximately 2,000 employees. And so like Dr. Riley said, that ranges from teachers to teaching assistants, what we call EOPs or building secretaries, food service, custodial, maintenance, administrators. That does not include the number of people required to provide transportation to our students. We contract that out. And so if we counted transportation, that would be significantly greater. So next slide. So our mission is to educate each student to achieve personal excellence. It's really that simple. So for some students, that might mean earning an associate's degree, preparing them before they leave high school, preparing them to go on and get a bachelor's or master's or beyond. For some students, that's going straight into the workforce after high school. Others, it might be going on to a trade or vocational school. The key is it looks different for every single one of our students. My husband and I have 6 kids, and all 6 of our children are very different. You know, there are definitely similarities because they essentially are one family, but every single one is different, and that's okay. It's not looking down or looking upon one student, you know, better than another. It's what's going to make them happy, how are they going to lead a fulfilling life, and go on to contribute again to their local community. Next slide. So opportunities that we provide, you know, we do like to say our students in Unit 5 have opportunities that not all districts provide. And again, it doesn't make one district better than another. It's different depending on the makeup of your school community, as well as what you can provide. So some things that I think are unique to Unit 5, all of our students at the elementary level have PE 5 days a week. And I highlight that because that doesn't happen in all districts. Some districts might offer PE 3 times a week or 4 times a week, and that's dependent on their schedule, what their teacher contract calls for, and the staffing that they have available. But our elementary kiddos, they have PE 5 times a week. They get music twice a week. They have art once a week, and they have IMC. Back when I went to school, it's called library time. They do much more than library time though now in IMC. They get that once a week. And then when you look at our junior high school, we have a wide variety of elective options for our students to pick from. And to me, there's beauty in that depending on the level. So at the elementary, at the junior high level, students are really going to be able to get a taste of all the different specialty areas as far as music, art, PE. At junior high, they're going to take some electives just to be able to explore, to see like, what do they like? What do they have an interest in? What might they be good at before moving on to high school when they really have a wide variety of options? So I'll use art, for example. You know, when I went to high school, we had one art teacher because I went to a much smaller high school. Well, we have all kinds of art electives ranging from AP dual credit courses to your basic intro to art. So our students really do get to explore that interest and passion, which A, can be fulfilling, but then 2, also might help them narrow in on a career path that they want to pursue unique to them. Our students at the high school level, they can earn an associate's degree in computer science while also graduating from high school. So that's something unique, I think, about our district. Students can earn a seal of biliteracy. So if they are, if English is their first language, if they can show proficiency in another language, they'll earn a seal of biliteracy on their diploma. If they come to Unit 5 where maybe Spanish is their first language and then they can show proficiency in English, they also earn that seal of biliteracy. I'm sure District 87 offers that too. So that's something more and more common. I think it's probably easier for us to do it being large districts than maybe some of our counterparts in the county. I think, again, looking at like the extensive options that we offer over 25 dual credit courses at both of our high schools, as well as over 17 advanced placement options for our students. So I highlight that because we know if students can graduate high school with any sort of college credit, even if it's one class, 3 hours worth of credit, they're more likely to go on to complete some sort of degree or continuing education. And so students at both of our districts really do have a wide range of options to earn credits towards college while still being in high school, which not only saves them money, but it saves them time. And then as Dr. Riley spoke about Bloomington Area Career Center, Unit 5, like many of our county partners, we all send students to BACC, and there our students can earn certificates, Again, start on a career pathway that just gives them a head start to some of their counterparts. Next slide. So this slide just shows the last 3 years, the percentage of our students in grades 11 and 12 taking AP or dual credit courses. So you can see during the 2021 school year, so that's the lighter yellow, 56% of our seniors were taking at least one dual credit or AP course. And our juniors last year, about 43% were taking an AP or dual credit course. So again, they can earn that college credit and just set them up for more success after they leave high school. Next slide. Again, probably similar to District 87, we have the luxury of being able to offer our students a lot of co-curricular, extracurricular, and athletic opportunities just by nature of being large districts. Whereas a smaller district, they might have a small segment of students interested in a certain extracurricular or co-curricular activity, but they don't have enough students to either make a team without co-oping with another district. So just put some pictures here, whether it's choir, orchestra, band, chess, esports. Esports is such a big thing. In like the last 4 or 5 years, our esports team actually just won a couple of state championships within the last month. So being a relatively new sport, like our students perform quite well. And if you are not a parent of a college-age student, our youngest is going to be a sophomore in college next year. They actually, esports awards a lot of scholarship money to students. Like, it's crazy, and I'm blown away by what they offer. But on top of, kind of the typical things that you might expect to see, we have a variety of like peer leadership groups that students can participate in. There's federal challenges like regarding to government and their knowledge of the federal government and how it works. Computer science, as I mentioned earlier. There was something that I just lost my train of thought. Oh, I know, as far as clubs, it's not uncommon for students to come to us, whether it be at the junior high or high school, and say, hey, I really have an interest or a passion in exploring maybe a club for this nature. And they'll find an adult working in school to sponsor the club. So I love that, that our students advocate for themselves, but then too that staff are willing to step up and help support our students. Next slide. As I mentioned, our special education program, we like to say it's second to none. So both of us, District 87 and Unit 5 as public education entities, we're required to provide special education services to students who qualify. And that might range from students who need speech and language services at the elementary or early learning levels to work on their articulation or understanding the English language, all the way to students with significant learning or physical needs or social emotional behavioral challenges. So both of us offer that pre-K up through age 22. And as I mentioned, Eugene Field is really a unique building that we provide in the district. It's not uncommon for a lot of our county neighboring districts, like they have to either be a part of a co-op or they have to send their students maybe to a location outside of their district. I would imagine District 87 is the same way. Like, we're able to serve 99.9% of our students in our districts because we do have that wide range of services available. Next slide. So having only been in the district a couple of years, I feel like we get the benefits of being a large district, but it feels like we're a small school district in some ways. It seems like everyone knows everyone. Our staff works really hard to build relationships, not only with students, but their families and with one another. And I think because of those relationships they build, you have that connected feeling among staff with students and families. And so, that allows staff to work and be able to differentiate instruction for students, to be able to help meet their social emotional needs, as well as being willing to step up and say, sure, I'll sponsor this club or activity, or, that group can meet my classroom. They just need someone there to facilitate and kind of provide supervision. So we're extremely lucky in that way for having the large district benefits with a small school feel. Next slide. And like Dr. Riley said, I mean, we have a very supportive community. And so whether it's our community partnerships that he mentioned, or it's parents and community members being willing to show up and support our students. And that might be at extracurricular or athletic events. It might even be through a variety of committees. So whether it's a PTO or PTA, we have a citizens advisory committee that meets throughout the year, and that's made up of parents and community members to be able to provide input and give us some guidance on decisions that we're making in the district. We have a parent group, they've kind of coined themselves Equity and Excellence in Education, that are looking at our students of color and making sure that we are providing equitable outcomes for all of our students. A parent-teacher advisory group, they help look at some of our policies, practices, and procedures, again, to make sure that what we're doing is fair and equitable for all of our students, but that our practices and procedures match our policy. And that goes along with like a restraint and timeout. Like the committees could go on and on. I just listed a few to highlight those. One of the things I've noticed that, you know, since I've been in the district, there's a great deal of pride, I know in Unit 5, but I'm sure also in District 87 by our alum and our community. And that's great because my hope is that when our students graduate from Unit 5, if they want to go off and pursue their education elsewhere, I want them to come back though to McLean County. You know, it'd be great if they lived in Unit 5, but I at least want them to come back to McLean County. Because if we have done our job of educating students, helping them become really well-rounded individuals, that's really going to serve and benefit our community at large. You know, at the beginning of every typical year, which I haven't had yet in Unit 5, but typically I like to ask staff when everyone's together, like stand up if you're a graduate of Unit 5. And just from getting to know so many of the staff in our district, we have a large number of Unit 5 alum working in our schools, whether that be as teachers, counselors, admin, food service, transportation. And I think it's always really eye-opening for colleagues to like look around the room and see how many Unit 5 alum chose to come back and not only live here, but work in our district. So that's certainly a source of pride for us. So really with that, I'm happy to answer any questions as well.
Just a quick comment to both of you. Obviously, you complement each other, work well together. As someone who visits with people coming into the community, I think we're very fortunate, very blessed to have two strong districts and private schools as well. A lot of good reputation, a lot of good credibility. And just, we're very fortunate to have two districts that work well together.
Thank you. I mean, I've appreciated Dr. Riley a great deal just with my short time here. And I often tell people like having strong public school systems, again, that's needed to bring in new business to the community. It's not uncommon for the Economic Development Council or the town or city to maybe be looking at businesses wanting to come to town and invite us to have a seat at the table while things are still kind of confidential and hush-hush. Because they want to know, is there a strong school district in place to be able to train, you know, future employees, as well as having a great place for their, you know, employees' children to attend. So, thank you.
Any other questions? Well, I'd like to thank you both on behalf of the commission. I think even those that have been in the community for a while, 21 years for me, and more than that, I'm sure for some here, we've learned things that we didn't know, even though we read the paper every day. So thanks again. We do seem to have a quorum now, so I think we can go back and take up the first part of our meeting. If you folks would like to stay, you're welcome. If you prefer
I'm
not
gonna do a 5 o'clock, but thank you.
I am gonna go as well, because I started before 7 today. And so thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Did we have any public comment or any request for public comment? No, we didn't. Okay. So the next item will be the consent agenda, which covers the minutes, the financial reports, and the staff reports. But is there anything that anyone would like to have removed from the consent agenda for discussion separately? Hearing none, I'll ask for.
I'll move. Since I was apologies.
Before I even got that.
Yeah.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded?
Aye.
Was that a no? Was that
Carl Olson's, you know?
was that a yes, Bart?
Yes, that's a yes.
Thank you. Okay, it was unanimous. So there is nothing removed. The first two items for information or discussion have been done. So we'll now go to regional housing initiatives. Tessa?
Everybody. So starting with the Housing Assistance Coalition, members of the coalition have provided over $5.2 million in COVID-19 related assistance to county residents since May of 2020. At our last meeting, we did invite a representative from Ameren who informed the group that there will be an increase in the rate of energy starting June 1st, today. But Ameren does have some programs to help residents pay utilities that could be found on their website. One is called Warm Neighbors, Cool Friends. And again, that can all be found on Ameren's website. And then moving on to some regional housing initiative information. The final draft of the annual regional housing initiative report for fiscal year 2022, which ranges from March 2021 to April 2022, was approved during May's staff committee meeting, and this report will be shared on MCRPC's website. And also finally, MCRPC's request to the city and the town to receive community development block grant funding for the initiative has been tentatively approved pending final approval by HUD. Any questions? Okay.
Thank you, Tessa.
Thank you, everyone.
Jennifer is going to bring us up to date on the Baser project.
Actually, with your indulgence, I'll have two things. First, on the Baser project, about which you've heard so much and so often, it is ending. It is almost finished. And staff in the town of Normal have advised that they're making the last reviews and last comments to the consultants working on this project to sort of wrap up the final details. And it's anticipated to go to the June 20th meeting of the town council for review, for discussion, and for recommendations to be made on how to pursue additional initiatives with this new tool. I'm hoping that sometime this fall we'll be able to show you some results, not just from the study that's just been completed or is being completed, but also how we're going to use this on a regional level. But we'll see how that goes a little bit later this year. Second thing, our transportation improvement program, which we do every year, is on our website for public review for 30 days. It will be taken up by the technical committee for a public hearing toward the end of the month, and also for the policy committee, which of course our chairman here is also the chairman, for approval and adoption. And just a brief explanation, we every year update our transportation improvement program. What that consists of primarily is what Projects are planned over the next 5 years by the local jurisdictions. This includes the county. And will also demonstrates that the things that are programmed are paid for, so they have funding committed. So we're not allowed to list projects that don't have that funding committed, although there's something called illustrative projects that we can sort of give a hint of what might be coming. The importance of this is that it helps everyone, including elected officials, but others, but also the community, to understand, what it takes to do the kind of transportation project and the sort of advancing of our system so that it serves everyone properly and in a sustainable way. And it also shows how much of the funding for this is locally generated, either through motor fuel tax or some of this works consistently, with the exception of IDA, that gets used a lot of federal money. Much of the funding comes from local government. So that's an important thing for people to realize that they're contributing to this. Any questions?
Just for the clarification, the second item that Jan explains, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission, is unrelated to PACER, which is under the item, but then we were going to have that under G that we may arise, just so you don't get too connected.
Right. As we said, we do the test every single year, so it's a big part of our program.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Ray is going to update us on the Vision Zero, the Go Safe project.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to speak from here. We're still waiting for the results, outcome of the 2 grant applications we submitted to IDOT. So this is June, one we should be hearing next month in July, and then the other is supposed to be in the fall. And then a couple of the federal grant programs just came out, and we looking into them and considering for application or not. We don't know yet, but it's on the federal level, so it's the national, the US DOT. Just will keep you apprised. Thank you.
Okay, and the long range transportation plan?
Yeah, thank you. As you're aware, some of you are participating on the project steering committee for this project. It's still on track, ongoing. The committee survey that we are conducting, we have received close to 630 responses. Thanks in part to some of the organizations that you present and you try and help us to get the word out, including the 2 school districts. They have to get the word out, and it's closing at the end of this month, June 30th. So we hope to get more responses. And there are a couple events that we attended, and a couple coming up. Then we also would have staff to attend and get the community members to participate and get the word out. We have, as part of the planning process, we have a number of focus groups based on certain topics, and there will be one coming up actually next Wednesday, a week from today. It will be on commerce and freight, and so we'll be hosting that and have representatives from different industries of different sizes to provide the insights and input. And so that after that one, we will have one more focus group, and we have a total of 5 focus groups, and so that the one next week will be the 4th one. Last but not least, the project steering committee will be has been meeting monthly, and the next meeting will be on the 15th of June, and so we'll keep you apprised. And appreciate all the efforts that you've provided in terms of getting the word out. It's really important for us to get the input, in addition to the staff research and data and other technical research that we do. So thanks. Questions?
I have one item I wanted to mention, and that is to let you know that the last vacancy on the commission has been filled now with Mr. Ron Lesser, who is the chief of engineering at the Ferrero plant south of town. We met with him last week.
Yes,
last week. Losing track of time. We met last week, and we had a good chat. He's very interested and looking forward to being on the commission. Unfortunately, had a prior commitment today and wasn't able to be here today, but you should get to meet him at the next meeting, I think. I believe he plans to attend them all when he possibly can.
Just want to note that he is fulfilling the term of Miss Diane Bowman, and so technically Mr. Lacer's term will expire at the end of this year, but can be reported.
Okay, is there anything else that should come up for the meeting?
Did you know the diversity we had today?
Beg your pardon?
The diversity we had, all the men are on this side. What happened?
We got in the middle.
Yeah.
Maybe we can reorganize the next meeting. So if there's nothing else, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
A motion.
Jim, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Bart. Any,
Thank you.
contrary minded? No. The motion carries.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, everybody, for being here.
Nobody does everything in your way. Yeah.